Greetings, everybody. It's your host, Sindisiwe Mhlongo, and today I'm with the most interesting political figure in South Africa. I've been dying to have this interview, but I'd like to give a warm welcome to Mr. Mzwanele Manyi. Welcome to Scales of Justice, Mr. Mzwanele.
Hi. Greetings to you and to your viewership.
Thank you so much for being here. So I want to know, just to get into it a little bit. Am I allowed to call you Mzwanele, or should I stick to Mr. Manyi?
What do you put Mzwanele, because you're much younger than me.
Put Mzwanele. Guys, I had to ask that question because he had to tell me what his age is before I did my own research. And he was like, in my 60s, and I was like, I young in my books. But thank you for taking care of yourself. You look great.
Thank you.
We appreciate having you still in the political arena in South Africa, which is something I want us to talk about quite a bit. You've had quite a colorful political career, haven't you?
Yeah. It's an interesting one. But the big thing about it, it's all left.
You know what I like about you?
Yes.
If I were just to shoot from the left.
Yes.
I love that all your scandals are political and none of them are about affairs or anything about the Betty culture.
Or stealing money.
Or stealing money.
Yeah.
I like that. You're like a political Betty. Can we call you that? Like
whatever.
A political Betty. You've had a couple of lovers, ANC, ATM, EFF, and now you're with MK.
Yes.
Oh, we have a lot to talk about.
Sure.
So I want to talk a little bit more about you. I know that you are very, I think, structured and careful in how you share your professional life and your personal life. And how I want us to talk about this is just you and what pushes you into politics. I'm aware that you were born in Soweto, Midlands. So Midlands people, you're up.
Yeah.
One of your own is here at Scales of Justice. So tell me about life in Soweto and what is it that pulled you into politics? Because I also understand you're qualified as a geologist. So you were someone who, was aspiring to a different life, a typical corporate life like all of us.
Yeah.
And now here you are, a political Betty, having had so many lovers in politics. Tell me about that.
Yeah. No, look, I think me being in politics the way I am now was really by accident.
Really?
If I was to say that, obviously my journey in my career, I started off in the geology space.
Yes.
I must have spent something like 10 years with Anglo American.
Yeah.
So I've got 5 years mining experience, mining geology experience. I've got 5 years exploration experience. So I'm quite aware with the space as it was. So later on, to cut the long story short, then later on,
keep it long. We have all the time.
Look. In fact, when I was in exploration, I was looking for promotion.
Okay.
In exploration, and they said to me, for you to be promoted, you have to have seen the ore body in 3 dimensions.
Yeah.
So that meant I had to go underground, and I was still young at the time, so
you went underground.
Yeah, I went underground in the Free State. Yeah.
Okay.
And indeed, Anglo rose to the occasion because after that couple of years of experience there, I made it to shaft geologist.
Okay.
So I was looking after number 4 shaft. It was called President Brand Mine at the time.
Okay.
They've got this Sotho name now, Visually Puts or some other name.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is now, but it was President Brand Mine at the time, adjacent to President Stein Mine and all of that. So people that are in that space will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's who I am. And then later, to just fast track, I also thought, I want more promotion. Then they said to me, no, you have to go to Mali and run a project there. So I wasn't keen on leaving the country.
Yeah.
That's when I started to look around. And then I went to Toyota. Okay. So I said to Toyota, this is now like 1994. So I said to Toyota, look, we've got this new comrades in place.
Yeah.
At that time, I was the chairperson of the ANC Youth League in Velkom branch.
So you were already in politics?
I wouldn't say, but I think in my era, it was difficult not to be politically involved. It was just almost impossible.
Yeah. So it was in a non-committal fashion. It was almost like a thing you do as a young person at the time.
Yeah, but my activism, if you could call it that, was more in the corporate.
Okay.
I was in the BMF as a member of the BMF.
Yes.
So that's what shaped my thinking, my ideology and everything is BMF, which had a bit of a black consciousness in it, as it were. So then when I went to Velcom, then there was...
We could say BMF is probably one of the influences of our current BE policies.
Yeah, a serious one, not just a little bit, at a substantive level.
Yes.
There's a lot of work that was done by the BMF to get to a whole range of policies into place. You know, I can talk the whole day about the BMF.
Yeah.
At one point, when Tito Mboweni was a Minister of Labour, I wanted to start that department.
Okay.
We had to let go one of our own, I think Mpoma Kwana, I think it was Loiso Mbabane, the first one.
Yes.
We got Loiso Mbabane to go there. I'm swapping them around. One of the two. First it was Loiso Mbabane or Mpoma Kwana, but the other was one of the two.
Yeah.
I'm just confusing them now. But those two people, both of them were heads of transformation in the BMF.
Yeah.
And then we donated them to government to shape up things like Employment Equity Act and all of that. So BMF has a serious stake, and all of us as members of the BMF, we continue to hold employment equity very dearly. We see it as our project, whether we are granted or not, we don't mind, but we just see it as our project because there's a lot of research that especially Loiso Mbabane did around Employment Equity Act and all of that. So BMF did that. And also later in 2003, I think, when there was that launch of the broad-based BEE, BMF had started the work before. BMF had said to itself that, BMF said, let's do something that we did in employment equity.
Yes.
Let's give this thing a proper framework, as it were, so that it's not just up in the air and all of that. So BMF led the charge when we did a report, and we gave it. There was something called a BE commission.
Yeah.
And at that time, we then said, well, who can chair this commission?
Yeah.
And Lotendlovu then said, well, let's get one of the leading lights in the ANC.
Yeah.
Because at that time, ANC was very strong and was very progressive at the time.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, let's get I think it was Secretary General at the time, Cyril Ramaphosa, in the ANC. We said, okay, let's get him to lead the BE because...
So you go way back with our president.
Yeah, well, in that context, yeah. So I don't just know him now. I know him way back then.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's when we got him, and he's actually quite a good chairman. I must give that to him. He knows how to chair meetings very well.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a chance to speak. He never suppresses anyone.
Yeah.
And all of that. So, and he's good at summarizing meetings. We must give it to him.
Yeah.
So he's good in those kinds of things. So he ran that thing for us and all of that, and we gave the report to President Mbeki and all of that. And then later, but they watered it down. By the time they got to the strategy of BEE, they really watered that thing down.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the reasons why it's struggling now, this BEE, because they didn't do really what we asked them to do.
Yeah.
But we've got what we've got. We have to work with it. So I'm just saying BMF has been very instrumental in this. So my space has always been the BMF. This politics space was an other. Okay. It was not my first love, call it that. Yeah. So we saw ourselves, we used to be described in the BMF as corporate guerrillas.
Yeah.
So this is where we saw ourselves, that we were in the space. We understood corporate South Africa. Yeah. In fact, I actually thought when the ANC came back from exile, that the very first thing that was going to do was to meet up with the BMF of the time, the Lotendlovus of the time, the Don Mkhwanazis of the time, the JP Magwazas of the time. I thought we were going to meet with those people and get the people that understand corporate and deploy them into government to be able to shape policies, because we know what's happening in the corporate space.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way. They just brought all their guys from the trenches and so on, and they ran the thing and all of that. We are where we are now, and all of that. But BMF has not lost hope. We still continue to make submissions, to be good corporate citizens. So BMF continues to do that space. That's a kind of my life has been in the social movement and activism and all of that.
So what pushes you directly into politics after all that?
So after all of that, then what did I do? Then I did a lot of things. I've been to banking, I've been to ICT.
You worked at the bank?
Yeah.
I worked at the bank too. We could have a whole day of a story around that.
There was a bank called People's Bank.
I remember People's Bank.
In fact, wearing this color, this was People's Bank colors.
Hey, don't attack my suit now. I told you this is my
these
brother's
are People's
suit.
Bank colors. Yeah. So I used to be an executive at People's Bank.
At People's Bank.
Okay. Yeah, and that bank was doing very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, because of the BMF networks, I was able to get the elite of our black middle class to bank with the People's Bank.
Yeah.
People bought their X5s with People's Bank and nice houses and what have you.
Yeah.
Until Net Bank Group, which was Netco at the time, merged with NBS.
Yeah.
Then before we knew, a very good guy, Richard Lobsha, who was the CEO, was displaced by some other guy called Tom Boatman.
Yeah.
And Tom Boatman, coming from the NBS BOE side, they came in and he then said, no, this thing offer too many colors. It's green for Netbank, is this color for PAM, is this color for People's Bank. We are dissipating the brand.
Yeah.
He wanted one color, like Standard Bank is all blue.
Yes.
Absa is all red, so we must be all green.
Yeah.
And all that. And also he had a problem with the growth of the People's Bank into the elite. He said, no, People's Bank is meant to be mass market and all of that. You are scavenging onto the net bank market and all that. So we can't allow this to happen. So then People's Bank had to be collapsed into Netbank mass market.
Okay.
Now, obviously, at that time in South Africa, you knew your place as an African that, okay, when that happens, there's a guy that side that now I'm going to have to report to.
Yeah.
And then here, I was like an executive director reporting to Lawton Kloof. I just could not get myself to report to some other GM, the other side. I thought, now it's time to go.
Yeah.
Then I left, I joined Barclays and later joined IBM.
You've been around the banking sector. Sounds like you're telling a bit of my resume too. But I'm not going to go into that. I don't want to fight with the banks.
Yeah. So later, Barclays, later IBM, later went into FMCG.
Yeah.
And all of that at Tiger Brands. In fact, I thought I was going to retire at Tiger Brands.
Yeah.
But it just so happened, and things happened at Tiger Brands. Then I had to move on. But in fact, at that point, I just thought it's an opportunity for me to go and make a contribution. So when I joined government, people sometimes, when they are nasty to me, they say, you got parachuted to be DG. I didn't get parachuted.
Yes.
For me, it was actually a downgrade from a salary and pegs and everything point of view. Yes. I actually took a 40% salary cut to be a DG.
Oh.
Yeah, so, I mean, at that time, DGs were 2009, they were earning, I think, around 1.2.
Yes.
So I was already almost nearly double that in the private sector.
And it's quite interesting. So you headed up the Department of Labor at that time,
yes.
right? And this is how we get to know you into politics.
Yeah.
I remember when you entered, you were known as Jimmy Manyi. What happened to Jimmy?
Yeah.
What happened to Jimmy?
Yeah. No, Jimmy, actually people that inspired me to drop Jimmy.
Yeah.
It's these young people, I think around 2015 when they did Roads Must Fall.
Okay.
Yeah. So I really understood their message.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before Roads Must Fall migrated to Fees Must Fall. First was Roads Must Fall. So at that time, I also wanted, they just reminded me that actually this Jimmy name is also a colonial name.
Yeah.
My parents gave me this name so that a white man can call me easily. So I decided that no, at this day and age, I can drop this thing. If you can't say Mzwanele, then too bad.
Yeah.
And all that. So that's how.
No, that's a good thing. I got an English name.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of a silly name. I don't know if I want to say this on camera, But yes, I have a middle name that
is it?
English.
Yeah. No, mine, I removed it surgically. Also, I went to Home Affairs. At the time, I think I paid 140 just to remove it.
Just to remove it. Yeah. You killed it altogether.
Yeah, the only problem from time to time, but it's not really a problem because I'm no longer going around with a CV looking for a job.
Yeah.
The problem is my certificates. I have all my certificates as Mzwanele Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sometimes when board appointments come, you have to explain.
Do an affidavit.
Yeah, all of those. Yeah.
Small price to pay.
Yes. Right? Yeah. So those things do happen.
Okay. I want to take you back to 2009.
Yeah.
You're the DG for the Department of Labor. There's something that I observed with corporates at the time. Like, I entered corporate South Africa around 2014.
Right.
And I remember vividly that there used to be bodies inside the corporate in banking, employment equity bodies that were sanctioned by statute, that they had to have them. And I think it becomes poignant now if you've seen the case, the car track case, the lady who was denied her sick leave. And those bodies were supposed to be the conscience of the corporate around making sure that they are, complying with employment equity and, comparing that to what happened with the case. And with my experience having stayed in corporate South Africa, I saw that those bodies, one, if you were part of them, you were looked at with a funny eye. I don't think banks are very kind to a level of activism because, I don't know, for some reason, there's a perception that you want to cause trouble. And I've actually worked in some institutions where these bodies did not exist at all. And I just want to know, would this have been in line with what you would have wanted or the vision you had for corporate South Africa when you joined the Department of Labor?
Yeah.
And right now, what happened to that? I haven't seen anything that said the law has changed, but what has happened to making sure that corporates are accountable around how they are treating their corporates? Because now, we have Mzwanele Manyi who passed on due to employment equity not being honored, allegedly.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the reasons I fought with my minister boss at the time, Mdladlan, was that when I was a DG of Labor, I was also president of the BMF.
Yeah.
And in the BMF, we really understood the subject of transformation.
Yes.
Extremely well institutionally. We had leading lights. The Lot and Love, we must come right to the top of the pops in terms of helping us to shape the thinking and everything else on this matter. So our approach in the BMF, which is what we try to inculcate into the act as well, is that the issue of transformation in the workplace must not be othered. Must not be put as some HR issue on the side.
Yeah.
So for us in our affirmative action blueprint, we said the CEO is the head of the organization. The CEO must actually have a key performance area of BE, of employment equity.
Yeah.
We believed, and we still do, that if you left employment equity to be the key performance area of the CEO, this thing will happen. Because then the CEO must be measured in terms of that. Otherwise, if you keep this thing on the side to make it some HR issue and non-core and all of that, then people just see it as a compliance thing more than a business. Because also we think that the issue of employment equity is actually good business practice, because we argue in the BMF that if you cannot have a situation where you have a top management that is homogeneously white, but you must serve a heterogeneous market that's got all races. We argue that if you need to have a heterogeneous top that has got all races, so that when you do a strategy, all the elements of your market are actually reflected right at the top.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have a situation where we have a product that just talks to the one group because people that informed it is their sum total of their worldview.
Yes.
So whereas if you've got a diverse top, you then have a diverse worldview, and it can only make a business sense to the breadth of your market. So that's really has been our approach to this thing. But And I can say that in our era, companies took employment equity quite seriously. Yeah. It was a board agenda item, the issue of BEE. We made sure that every year when there was an employment equity report, we make so much noise. Yeah. And we also we introduced something called the name and shame. Yeah. That companies that are not shaping up, we put them up. And companies hate that for their reputation. Yeah. So therefore, they had to make sure that they're not in the name and shame list.
Obliging with BEE.
They oblige with BEE and all
thank
that.
you for that. I think I'm one of the products of BEE coming from the township and having to move in the corporate spaces.
A lot of people don't want to say this. I'm glad that you say that.
No, I'm very proud of it. I'm a BEE product. Yes.
Because they think their master's degrees and everything is what got them there. They don't realize that you are a garage purchase. Even today, you're still a garage purchase in the corporate. They just have to, because they just have to reflect what the law requires. Yeah. But if they could, if it was left in their own devices, people wouldn't be actually breaking these glass ceilings that they have.
So I'll say it again. I'm a very proud product of BEE. I was raised by my grandmother on her pension money.
Okay.
Where I come from, people don't go to varsity because there were no resources. So BEE benefited me from me going to varsity, studying my law degree, and being, part of the target market when it comes to being shortlisted for positions. And I started my positions in corporate on a management level because of BEE. Wow. I had to execute, obviously, to the best of my ability to represent. Yeah. And whilst we are talking about that, current affairs, what has happened, there was Elon Musk. Because that's another corporate, aspect of things. It's funny, I thought we were going to be very political, but I'm happy we're talking about, corporate as well, because that's quite interesting. Because when we entered into the CODESA talks and talked about, the previously advantaged being advanced, corporate is where it's also happening and becomes one of the key places where you see that. How do you feel now? Because with Starlink coming on, it was trending on Twitter, and there was a big fight around Elon Musk saying that our policies are racist, and that he doesn't want to be forced to have 30% ownership that belongs to locals in his company. And you saw some of our white counterparts speaking to BEE fatigue, basically saying that there should have been, and I think this is part of the reasons the CODESA talks collapsed, that there should have been sunset clauses, that it's been going on for too long, and essentially it's become reverse racism. What would you say to those sentiments today?
No, look, I think I'm going to take a bit of a cynic route.
Yeah.
Yeah. Firstly, for you to understand broad-based BEE, you also need to understand the narrow-based BEE.
Yeah.
In my view, BEE had 3 phases. Yes. The first phase of the BEE, the Motlana BEE, the DCJ now, Museneke, at the time, they did this thing, they had an organization called NAIL.
Yes.
They had a whole range of sophisticated instruments there, the N shares, phantom shares, and all of these kinds of sophisticated finance language issues.
Yeah.
They had those kinds of, that kind of a BEE and all of that. And then it moved to what was then called narrow BEE, where the focus was on 30% ownership.
Yes.
Then, and because we needed to own the economy, the means of production and all of that, it moved into that space. So when it got to that space, then there was a lot of criticism that this is an elite program, it needed to be broad-based and all of that.
Yeah.
This is when it moved then from that narrow base to broad base. Mm-hmm. So broad base means the 7 elements of the BEE. Mm-hmm. You would have the equity at the top, you'd have ownership, you'd have employment equity to make sure that everybody reflects the demographics of the country.
Yes.
You'll have skills development so that you make sure that people are skilled for the positions that they must get to. So therefore there had to be some investment in skilling people into that. Mm-hmm. And then there had to be an element of procurement to make sure that the company is measured by how much it procures from black suppliers. Mm-hmm. Then there had to be enterprise development, which was what the company would do to capacitate the would-be supplier. Mm-hmm. to make sure that they produce the goods and services in the quality that you require them.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there would be an element of socio-economic development where the people that benefit from your CSI programs, your CSR programs, all of that, to uplift them and all of that. So that's what that is what is actually broad-based BEE, is those 7 elements. So it actually addresses different target markets.
Yeah.
So any person today that says BEE, like Mzwanele Manyi, he has not understood the 7 elements of the BEE with respect. His mind is still locked into the original nail thing, the N shares. He has not understood that we've now got 7 elements. Actually, it is broad-based because in those elements, you then can even bring in unions, you can bring in all kinds of stakeholders into that space and all of that. So park that. So then we said we needed to ensure that there is meaningful ownership. So then the problem, I'm coming to Starlink. The problem at the time was then to say there are companies whose market cap is almost like the economy of South Africa. So how do you deal with this thing? One of the companies, for instance, I used to work for, IBM, they had some mad market cap that if you had to say 30% of that, even if you had to syndicate that deal with all the banks, they would not be having enough money to buy that 30% of IBM. So then IBM and others at the time then had to put together a local IBM South Africa, just so that there can be something that is meaningful, that people can own and can comfortably syndicate and buy a stake that is meaningful.
Yeah.
So that's how this was done. So then if you couldn't do that, then the issue of equity equivalent came in. Then a company said, well, because of this and that reason, we cannot do like the IBM South Africa kind of a thing, but maybe in lieu of that, we can do something else.
Yeah.
So now the Starlink thing, which the DA has just also, because they haven't got the depth in broad-based BEE, and this what I'm talking about, they just don't understand it because they've also always been against anything that empowers Black people.
Yeah.
So they come in, they don't let this Starlink to do what it's like IBM would have done.
Yeah.
To be able to see what we can do to bring meaningful ownership. Maybe it's, I don't know what their market cap is, but maybe with their market cap, we can still syndicate and get a decent percentage. If not, if it's as huge as IBM or HP at the time, then maybe we need some kind of an arrangement like IBM had of making Starlink South Africa, so to speak, and all of that. The thing that they want to go to is the very last step. They want to start with the last step first and to say, we don't even want to consider any of this. We just want to start the easy route of doing equity equivalent. So that's a problem right there. That means there is no commitment to transformation. There is no commitment in making sure that Black people are the owners of the productive assets of the economy. So that's really the issue on that one. And from where I sit, also apart from that, if you ask me, I don't think the kind of business that Starlink is in should be outsourced to any company that is not local. That is too sensitive. You can't have a situation where our email system, the entire ICT infrastructure can be hosted in the US. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
If we not wanting to understand their right-wing politics, then they just switch us off.
Yeah.
It's actually a national security risk.
Yeah.
And for this so-called GNU not to understand this is actually amazing.
Yeah.
They should know that the kind of business that those people are in, it's not the kind of business that should be run by someone that is not homegrown. We want a homegrown company to run.
What about the fact that Elon is South African born?
Sorry?
What about the fact that Elon Musk is South African born? Doesn't that give him...
No, I don't even think he identifies as a South African.
I don't think so too. But let me just say, Elon is not really my focus. I think the sentiments around it is what piqued my interest. Seeing that our white counterparts feel like they were on Elon's side, not for the potential security risk, but because it was an opportunity to say BEE is a racist policy that only benefits Black people, and they feel that they are left out of participating effectively in the economy and being hired effectively in corporate.
No, in fact, I think that is just factually incorrect, because if you look at what is considered a BEE company, it's a 51% Black owned. So that means 49% is white. Now, if you consider the demographics of whites in South Africa, they're under 10%. For people that are under 10%, to give them a stake of 49% is like 400% over-representation for them. So they just don't appreciate that.
The math is not mathing.
Yeah, exactly.
The math is not mathing. And then talking about that and moving on to the bill now that the MK has proposed into Parliament. But before we go into the bill, I'm quite interested. Let's talk about your love affair with political parties.
Yes.
Okay. You're with ANC.
Yes.
You go to ATM.
Yes.
You leave ATM.
Yes.
You go to EFF.
Yes.
You leave EFF.
Yes.
And now you're with MK.
Yes.
What's happening?
Let me explain.
Why all this shaggy?
Let me explain to you. I think I was nearly like 30 years with the ANC. I understand the ANC policies very well.
Yes.
And all that. In fact, a lot of them are good, but they're just badly, if not poorly implemented. Some of them needed to be changed and all of that. And through the BMF, through another organization that we had started called the Progressive Professionals Forum, we tried to make submissions to change a few things, like the triple PFA, for instance. We fought very hard, but we are in the right direction in terms of that only now. So around 2012, I think around 2012, this is when the ANC could see that actually not much progress has been made on transformation. And then there was new speak in the ANC called the second transition. The second transition was now supposed to be economic transition. And all of that. So things moved on. And to cut the long story short, 2017, the ANC did the most transformational resolutions. They were going to, it was like a realization that there needs to be a step change in transformation to get where we need to get to. There was a resolution of expropriation without compensation for the land. There was a resolution on nationalizing the Reserve Bank, because we thought that you can't have a situation where you've got a Reserve Bank that is owned by private individuals. I mean, if you look at the reserves of the Reserve Bank, even as things stand, that you wonder, why is it that we can't have a situation where the Reserve Bank can borrow government money at a very low interest, as opposed to borrowing from IMF when these guys are sitting with huge reserves. So I wanted to nationalize the Reserve Bank so that it can be an active participant in uplifting the poor of this country. Right now, it is not. So wanted to do that, wanted a state bank. We hold a view, which we still do, that if you look at all the money that is floating around government institutions, if you had a state bank, surely the interest rates that would be charged to the state would be much lower, and all of that, and also the issue, the credit policy to enable the development, because of a developmental state would be so much better. Just there's so many things that we can do with our own bank, as a bank that will understand the developmental agenda. A bank that would not ask me assets when they know that I'm from an apartheid background, so I don't have an asset base. But right now we've got a credit policy that puts risk if you don't have a huge asset base to back up your loan and everything else. So we've got the whole thing wired to continue to impoverish you if you have not been a serious beneficiary of the system.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at even at because of the nature of the credit policy, if you are an African sitting in Dobsonville or somewhere in Soweto, just by definition, you become high risk, and therefore your interest rate is going to be much higher than some white person living in Randburg and all that. So you've got all of those ingrained racist things in the credit policy of the commercial banks as things stand. So with our state bank that would understand these things and all of that, it was going to be better for the majority of the people.
Yeah.
So let me keep it at those three resolutions that were made in 2017. And then the election happened the way it did. And we all know that it was a rigged election. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma should have been the president of the ANC in 2017, but monies came. And if you want more details about that, you can go to Rob Herzog.
Yeah.
You must bring him here.
Yeah,
He'll tell
I would love to.
He will tell you how.
Rob, please be aware you're invited.
Yeah, he will tell you how. He even knows the people that gave money, that ensured that the elections go the wrong way.
Yeah.
So that happened. So then we still thought that, okay, even though we were robbed and all of that, you must remember, even leading to that, the NDZ camp was very strong.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I mean, the CR camp was busy disbanding a whole range of regions.
Yeah.
And they would say, Northwest, there's a problem with the election, and therefore you don't qualify. But we didn't mind. We still had huge number of people. Then they would say,
so you believed in Nkosazana Zuma becoming the president at the time?
Oh yeah. We would have had a far better country as we speak because she's a no-nonsense person.
And if I can be a controversial person, I mean, what we know in the public is that you've had a stronger affiliation to former President Zuma. Would that have been influenced by your association with former President Zuma, or was it because, of her and who she is?
This is the biggest tragedy that we have about women in the movement, in the corporate that have made it by themselves, and somehow the credit they must get must be dampened because they're associated with some husband.
Yeah.
Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma.
Yeah.
Is a person of her own right.
Yeah.
She is a struggle heroine in her own right.
Yes.
And all that. It's a coincidence that she got in with President Zuma, they got married and what have you.
Yes.
That's just a
coincidence.
Yeah. But and it was not like some housewife that was converted into politics. They met in the trenches.
Yes.
And all of that. So Nkosazana Zuma had taken her own conscious decision to be in politics, to be an activist and all of that.
Yeah.
So they met, so she's got her own credentials.
Yeah.
And then she went and she became one of the ministers here.
Yeah.
Thanks to Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma that we have in the restaurants today, because I don't smoke. Thanks to Nkosazana Zuma that if you go to restaurants today, you get a smoke-free situation. Can you imagine? I mean, before that, it used to be I'm telling you, it was so uncomfortable to be in a restaurant. You're just having a secondary smoking.
Yeah.
But when she introduced that law, she was under so much pressure. That is because you're going to kill business, you're going to do this.
Yeah.
But because she was firm, she had a vision, she knew where she was going. She said that's how it's going to, and it was. And today, everybody's celebrating that.
And thank you for reminding us of that.
Yeah. And much more of that kind of caliber would have emerged.
Yeah.
And now it got suppressed by this corruption that happened in that conference.
Yes.
And we ended up with what we have.
Yeah.
Let me tell you the problem. That's why I left then.
Yeah.
So we first thought, as a disciplined member of the ANC, we say, well, we support the new leadership.
Yeah.
With all our problems, put them in the past. Nkosazana Zuma is a disciplined member. She went, I think there's our function theater at Bulwer, somewhere in KZN, where she decommissioned the machinery to say, guys, we've got a new leadership, let's support. And all of that And that's our mood. We took pictures with everyone and all of that. The new dawn. So we said, well, it's our movement.
Yeah.
At least we've got the resolutions which are progressive.
Yeah.
So for me personally, then when, for instance, when there was a story about nationals in the Reserve Bank, one of the first people that thought were mad was Tito Mboweni.
Yeah.
May his soul rest in peace.
Yes.
We thought, what nonsense is this? This is not going to happen. Then I thought, wow, how can an ANC member contradict an ANC conference?
Yeah.
You know, I grew up in a space where we've always believed that the conference is the highest decision-making structure of the ANC.
Yeah.
So what the conference says, there is no structure that can do anything. No individual, no office bearer can do anything. Conference has resolved. That is the final thing.
Yes.
Democratic centralism, we understood it to be exactly that you participate in a democratic process, but once a decision is made by the higher structure, everybody toes the line.
Yeah.
That's how I grew up in the ANC, understanding that approach. But in 2018, when Tito said this, and then the next thing got back up from the president that, actually. Then they started to be all kind of clever, explaining that we cannot do this, we cannot do this. This is going to affect investor confidence and all of that.
Yeah.
Then I said, what nonsense is this?
Yeah.
And then that was the first thing that said, what is going on here? So, and then come 2018, later in 2018, around October, then I think it was the EFF at the time, I think they had 6% or something. And then the EFF gave the ANC their vote to say, let's do, what to call it, we'll give you 2/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of that, so that we can amend the constitution to get, so that we can change Section 25 of the constitution.
Yeah.
And all that. I beg your pardon, they actually did it way before this, but ANC could not do it because at the time they had no resolution.
Yeah. That
was the reason given. Now, 2018, EFF came again with this motion in Parliament to say, let's have this. And then I remember the chief whip of the ANC at the time was Jackson Mthembu, may his soul rest in peace.
Yes.
And he came up with some, ANC has this thing of not wanting to vote with opposition, or they want to vote for themselves, and what kind of a thing. So they had to tweak that EFF resolution to make it an ANC resolution. And the EFF, credit to them, they played along to say, well, as long as you've kept the big part, the main thing is still intact, we are fine.
Yeah.
Then they did that. Then the next thing, before I knew, then they started now some road shows, which was led by who's the husband to the Minister of Basic Education before this DA person? Mutshekga.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah. Professor Mutshekga.
Yes.
Professor Mutshekga and Mandela, they were the head honchos of the Constitutional Review Committee. They were going around the country. In fact, I was saying to myself, but what is this now? Because, in the ANC, before we go to the conference of the ANC, branches of the ANC would go to the community and they would participate. So when you go there into the conference of the branches, in the ANC conference, you come there with information from society.
Yeah.
So I thought the consultation was done, but I said, okay, maybe it's a government way of doing things. Maybe I don't understand government. That's how they're going to do it. They went around the country and then they came back with an overwhelming support of expropriation without compensation.
Yeah.
Then I thought, well, I don't know what you thought we were going to get, but there's this thing is properly endorsed. Now, then I thought we were going to do this. Then they came back, then they watered this thing down.
Yeah.
In the caucus of the ANC, obviously with the backing of the Luthuli House.
Yeah.
They came there with some Mickey Mouse concept called expropriation with nil compensation. Now, to an unsuspecting person, you think nil compensation and no compensation is one of the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not. Fundamentally different.
Yeah.
When you say nil compensation, firstly, it means the issue of compensating is part of the deal. Then you have to work out what is it, what are the conditions precedent before you compensate, before you don't compensate.
Okay.
That on its own, actually, what that does is that it's actually a recipe for a dispute.
Yeah.
They knew this. Then they said, okay, if there's a dispute, then a court will
have to decide.
Will have to decide and all of that. And we were saying, but why all of this rigmarole?
Yeah.
Because also for that to happen, then it means the state must budget billions of rands for lawyers' fees.
Yeah.
Because no farmer is going to agree easily to this kind of a thing. So it means we are locked in a court process for 100 years to come. When you had an option of saying without compensation, then there's no discussion and all of that.
Do you feel like ANC was deliberately passing off just to keep the South African public appeased whilst doing more or less the opposite?
The new leadership was basically run by Stellenbosch. Yeah, so what they were doing now was no longer ANC resolutions, it was Stellenbosch resolutions.
Okay.
Yeah, now the Stellenbosch would not agree to expropriation without compensation. Yeah. So the ANC was just the administrators, they still are the administrators of Stellenbosch.
Spicy.
Yeah, so that's what it is, right? That's just the truth. And so their bosses in Stellenbosch would never agree to that.
Yeah.
So what they did in Cape Town was actually informed by that kind of thinking. Okay. So then this is when I realized that, no, here, we're going nowhere. That's why then the following year, 2019, I thought up to here, no further, because I thought we no longer have an organization here.
Okay.
If you have people that can't listen to the highest decision-making structure, which is the conference, and then after the conference, then they do all kinds of funny things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, for instance, a step aside, the step aside in the ANC, when we resolved as part of the conference, when we resolved on the step aside, it was to say to protect the integrity of the ANC.
Yes.
That you needed to make a revolutionary decision to say, as a revolutionary, my consciousness is higher than everybody else.
Yeah.
As a revolutionary, my ethics must be higher than anybody else.
Yeah.
So if someone came to me and said, I'm involved in some procurement nonsense of sorts, then I would then say, because I love the ANC so much, that I would say, let me step aside.
Yeah.
So that I deal with this thing at my personal level, so that the integrity of the organization is not tainted.
Yeah.
Then came, that was the theme of that resolution.
Yes.
Then 2018, the NEC changes that because now they wanted to purge people. They changed that. Then they changed that to be when the NPA has charged you.
Yeah.
So basically the ANC took its power and gave it to the NPA.
Yeah.
The NPA decides if you must step aside because they're going to charge you.
Yeah.
Now, the NPA of the time would charge you for nothing. I mean, as I'm talking to you here and now, ACE was one of the casualties of that maneuvering.
Yeah.
They charged ACE for some flimsy things about oversight that it did not do and what have you. And all of that. Even as we speak today, they don't have an indictment sheet. I was seeing him on TV complaining about the postponement because there is no case.
Yeah.
The whole strategy was to rubbish him, to get him off the line and all of that. And then, but when it must up.
Are you essentially saying that the NPA, and this was the time, do you still hold the same sentiments now that the NPA is not independent as it should be? Because it sounds like you're saying they were being used as a tool for ANC to purge people they were no longer in favor with.
Yeah, I think it's
Do you think that has changed, especially if ACE is still dealing with some postponement?
Yeah, I think it's work in progress. I mean, you have NPA today. Part of the NPA, they've got a unit there called IDEC.
Yeah.
That IDEC has not inspired confidence in me.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what IDEC has done. IDEC, I mean, Advocate Johnson is on record saying people, they must fake it till they make it. So they go to court with empty files and all these gowns and everything and look all serious when they've got nothing. And they take you, I mean, they take Uko Machela. They wake him up and his wife and his child, They take into court 6 o'clock in the morning and they go and charge them. Even today, that case is nowhere.
Yeah.
Because they were just targeting this guy and all of that, because he didn't make the kinds of establishment type decisions while he was at ESCOM and all that. So that still happens. I mean, today you have Masemula. Masemula and Mkwanazi are on the right side of justice.
Yeah.
They're on the right side of making sure South Africa is on the right path. So what do? They go and charge Masemula for a PFMA thing. In fact, I also serve in the Justice Committee in Parliament.
Yes.
So we go to IDEC. I say to IDEC, I told them what I'm going to tell you now, that you guys in IDEC, I see you and the rest of us, people I mix with in the streets, they see you as part of the rogue activity, the rogue syndicate. You are actually supporting the rogues in the police force. I give an example. I say, if you are going to arrest Masemula for a PFMA issue of whether it's irregular expenditure and all of that, then there's 34 other DGs. We sit there in Parliament. There is, without fail, each and every report that's got an irregular expenditure. Without fail. When are those DGs going to be arrested? Why do you pick on this one? And I'm saying, and also in the PFMA Act, Section 86 is very clear about at which point does your lapses become crime. They become crime if it can be established 2 things. One, that it was a willful intent for you to do something wrong, or gross negligence. So for that to happen, there has to be a DC of sorts. And the finding must be made. Once that finding is made, then you are fair game to be arrested for whatever. But this didn't happen with Masemula. They just pounce on him, and then the next thing, after they've taken him to this court, then they say then they postpone the thing, and they say when you come next, you'll line up with Matlala and all other crooks. You can see that this is just...
It almost seems like a smear campaign.
It is a smear campaign.
A body that is supposed to be independent.
Exactly.
I'm going to ask you to pause right there. Going back to your love affair with political parties. From what we've just discussed, the bulk of it, and you can correct me, could I easily conclude that the reason you moved from the ANC and probably moved into ATM, moved into EFF, and then to MK would have been those 3 policies that you addressed that the ANC did not commit to? And that, would I be correct in assuming the parties were not delivering or pushing hard on them for one reason or the other? Would be the reason that you left?
You see, okay, let me just quickly go through them. The ATM, not that it was not pushing them, I was just worried about their growth.
Okay.
That in order for us to, I've got no beef with the ATM. It's just that their growth was not at the pace I thought it would be. And then to be still hovering around 1-2%, it's going to take forever. So, excuse me. So at the time, EFF had bigger numbers. And there was no MK at the time. So I thought, let me go and assist with the EFF in the EFF space. So I was there in the EFF space, and I don't have issues with their policies or anything and all of that. Again, with the EFF, it was also just question of growth. That they were not growing at. When MK started, it kicked off at around 15%. And as we speak now, EFF is around 9%. And all of that. So I'm looking for where my contribution is going to take us closer to the main prize. And also in the MK party, it's all of us in the main that were in that 2017 conference. So when I am there, I'm at home. We know what we actually wanted to do.
You absolutely are at home. I mean, you had to fight for the brand, right?
I'm honestly at home. I mean, right now, I'm in the front line in Parliament to drive this thing of expropriation without compensation.
And I want us to talk about that.
An ANC resolution which they reneged on. So I'm true to what we had agreed to in 2017, which they reneged on. So we are here now, and the MK party is saying that's exactly what we had wanted to do. And,
initially. And I want to talk about that. Expropriation without land is a big topic. I mean, this is where we get the different races almost wanting to strangle each other in the country, because our white counterparts say, now you're not being fair. I'm already aware that already from proposing the bill, I mean, AfriForum, amongst other opposing parties, stepped out to say you are violating human rights. You are violating the right to self-determination, because you're saying essentially land should fall into the state. I also noticed in the policy that it also advocates for joint custody between the state and traditional leaders. And what I noticed as well is that it is challenging the current laws on land in South Africa. Basically, you're saying, let's go back to 6 April 1952, I think, when Jan van Riebeeck came back, whereas the Land Act was limiting it to 1913 when the changes around land took effect in South Africa. Are there any differences from what was proposed by the ANC to what we are reading and learning about when it comes to the bill on land expropriation? Is there anything that has been added that's different to what was there before?
Yes, I can tell you now that with the ANC, with the EFF, the issue of the cutoff was never a subject of discussion. In fact, I'm saying today that I celebrate, I always say when things don't happen my way, that God is actually on my side. Yeah, He's saving me from something. Yeah, I never lose sleep when I don't get my way. I
like that. I'm going to absorb that.
I say I'm saved from greater things. I'm saved from bad things. Yeah. So I'm celebrating the fact that all those efforts to amend Section 25 did not succeed. Yeah. Because all those efforts were not dealing with the fundamental issue that our constitution as it stands right now has sold us out. Yeah. The constitution as we stand right now, if you go to Section 25, subsection 7 of the constitution, there's a date there that deals with the issue of restitution. Yes. It says, if you've been robbed of your land due to colonialism of apartheid and all of those things, you can only be restituted or equitable redress must be given to you, but the cutoff date must be 19 June 1913 going forward. Yes. By that time, some 93% of the land had already been taken. Yeah. So we're actually dealing with 7% at that time. The growth from 7%, in fact, I must credit this person that did this research, Advocate Madonsela, Professor Madonsela. Okay. I was laboring under impression for the longest of time that 1930...
Advocate Thuli Madonsela?
Advocate Thuli Madonsela, yes.
Oh, impressed.
Yeah. We had this discussion in the WhatsApp group, and she did a nice piece about this development. And up until her intervention, my understanding was that at 1913, we had 13% of the land. This is a general understanding. She cleared that no, actually, it was actually 93%. So credit to her. 93% had already been taken. So if we had agreed in 2018 with the bill that was there, if the ANC had done this thing in 2018 properly, it would have meant, even with the support of the EFF, it would have meant we got 7%, at most 13%, let me be generous, 20%. Yeah. It would have meant 80% of the land would have still... Yeah. So MK party is the first party, must mark this, it's the first party to say shift the cutoff date back to 6 April 1652. Yeah. For that date there in the bill, we say up until that time, the entire land was no settler that had a stake in it. Yeah. A lot of people from Europe came and went here. They didn't do what Van Riebeeck did. Yeah. When Van Riebeeck did, they started in the Cape, settled there, and from there, they started all their things to own the country, to push people away, to dispossess people. Then it was just from the wave and waves of colonialism. Yeah. 1795, the English came. Yeah. They also did their bit and all of that. 1910, they agreed to do a union of South Africa and all of that. So they did all of those things. So we are saying as MK Party that in order for justice to be seen to be done, shift the date to that time. So then we can talk about South Africa as a whole.
Yeah.
And then we are saying, going further from that, we are saying we are not here on some vengeful mission. No.
Yeah.
We are saying let the land ownership revert to the people of South Africa.
Yeah.
Under the custodianship of the state and our royalty.
Yeah.
We argue that the land was taken away from the kings. It was not taken away from politicians.
Yeah.
We had all the Sekukunis of this world. We had all the Makomas of this world and so on. All the kings, African kings that were dispossessed and all of that were the people that were custodians of the land, and they were doing it for the people. And we had, before Europeans arrived, we had our own ways of doing things. There was no hunger in the country. There was no hunger and all that. So we had our way of doing this. There was no jail.
Yeah.
There was no prison. We had our own way of punishing or dealing with delinquent people or thugs or whatever.
Yes.
Not that we didn't have people that were wayward, but we had a system of dealing with them that rehabilitated them and all of that. So we had our own way of doing things.
Yeah.
So we are saying as MK Party that let's move this date back there. And then we then say that firstly, something to clarify, that when we do this land restoration story, people, we are not focusing on your house in Randburg, on your house in Sandton, your house. No, we're not worried about your dwellings.
Yeah.
We're worried about
the land in itself.
The land itself, in the bigger scheme of things, agricultural land.
Yes.
The audit that was done in 2017 has got a shocking revelation that 72% of the land, of agricultural land, is owned by white people.
Yeah.
Africans
own 4%. Can I ask you to pause right there?
Yeah.
This topic of land ownership has come to the fore with the xenophobic allegations against South Africa that we are dealing with. It's one of the things we are trolled for on social media. Yes, you're kicking out Africans, but your land is not, owned by Black people. So I think it becomes a poignant discussion in the backdrop of everything that's happening in current affairs. Yeah. So I took a bit of a stance on the xenophobia topic. One was saying that South Africa is not xenophobic. We have a right to speak for our borders. But the second stance that I took, that I want us to look at this picture holistically, land restitution, what's being said. The second stance was you cannot now come into the country illegally and then insist that we should renege on the democracy we agreed on in 1994 to keep the country peaceful.
Yeah.
As South Africans, we have a right to self-determination. We chose to live peacefully with all the races that were in the country at the same time. Would the topic now of land expropriation without compensation, would it not compromise the agreements, and would it not then give power to what parties or institutions that are opposing the policy, in them saying that the policy in itself will put South Africa in almost a war state, and that we are basically reneging on the peace talks that we had, culminating in our constitution in 1994. What would you say to that?
No, I think the answer to that is that actually the person that dropped the ball, unfortunately, is President Mbeki.
Yeah.
2004, ANC had 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
White people of this country understood. That's why we had things like sunset clauses.
Yeah.
It was just to manage the transition.
Yes.
There's always been an understanding that once this thing is done properly, once the transition is done and all of that, there would be some change. That's why first we had an interim constitution, and then we moved to the constitution in 96.
Yeah.
And also it was a phase thing. So in 2004, there should have been, because the discussion that was never had at CODESA was the economic discussion.
Yeah.
So at 2024, 2004, when President Mbeki was had 2/3 majority, that was a lost opportunity to change these things. And at that time, even the level, the expectation was that things must change.
Yes.
But we just squandered that chance, and then complacency set in.
So you're basically saying the policy on land expropriation without compensation was always there, but it was just going to happen over time.
The issue, or let me put it this way.
Yeah.
The issue of ensuring that there's peace and tranquility and equity in South Africa had always been there.
Yeah.
And then it was also going to be done in an orderly manner.
Yes.
An orderly manner meant that it's within the confines of the law.
Yes.
This is why I'm saying we missed an opportunity there, because at no point there was thinking about shooting anybody.
Yeah.
It had to be done within the law.
Yeah.
So the first opportunity we had, which was squandered, was in 2004 when the ANC had 2/3 majority. So we lost that opportunity.
Yeah.
What we're doing now is a piece of work that should have been done back
Long
then.
ago. Yeah.
And then also, just to conclude on this before we get to the xenophobia story, to conclude maybe on the land issue so that we don't mix issues.
Yes.
The self-determination issue is a separate one from Section 25.
Yes.
This is another section in the Constitution, Section 235.
Yes.
Self-determination, which the Boers of this country have misunderstood. If you could read that section, you can read it very slowly.
Yeah.
You will see that section, in fact, I had a podcast with Ernst Rhodes.
Yeah.
And I explained to him that, no, you are misunderstanding this section. This section talks to, the very first sentence talks to South Africa as a whole.
Yeah.
That it must self-determine as a whole.
As a whole,
not,
as a collective.
Yeah, not this dismembering stuff that they're busy with.
Yeah.
Then before you know, there's a racist project in the Western Cape called Cape Exit.
Yes.
And then you've got Oranje, then you've got Kleinfontein, then you've got Eureka. That's not the self-determination as envisaged in the Constitution. That's why the MK party again, we've got a bill to scrap that thing because we're saying it just creates confusion and all of that. So they are up in arms.
So is it scraping it, or you want the law to articulate itself better?
Scrap it because you've got the bill of it's. In fact, that section, if you want to understand it the way in which the Oranje people are understanding it, it is actually in direct contrast with the Bill of Rights. If you go to the Bill of Rights, Section 9 on the Equality Clause, and you look at what are the provisions of the Constitution there, this is Bill of Rights.
Yes.
And I say to people, you know, the way the Constitution is laid out, Bill of Rights has got a higher weighting than the rest of the Constitution.
100%. I agree.
And the reason you would say this is because for you to change the Bill of Rights, you need 75% majority.
Yeah.
For you to change anything else beyond the Bill of Rights, you can do that with a 2/3 majority.
Yeah.
So if you've got a section of the Constitution which requires 75% of majority for you to change it, and that section is saying there shall be, if you go to Section 9, subsection 5, you'll see that in that section, it deals with the issue of not the discrimination that must not be based on race or color, and all of that is in there. Even culture, you cannot discriminate on those bases and all that. So if you now have, and if you go to Oranje, in fact, I was at Kleinfontein personally, with a group of us as MK went to Kleinfontein, and I asked them a direct question. Can I, as Mzwanele Manyi, live in Kleinfontein? Now, they've got a very, a very clever answer to this question. It's not straightforward. They say, no, actually, no, you are not barred from coming here, but you have to meet these conditions. And that's where the thing comes in. That's where the sting in the tail is. What are the conditions? No. You must speak Afrikaans. You must subscribe to the Afrikaner culture. You must.
But there's some case law that also said the requirement to be English or Afrikaans speaking, even in adverts, that said that was discriminatory.
I beg your pardon?
No, I'm saying there's been case law, labor law. I can't remember the case now, that said the requirement, if you have a requirement in your advertisement for a job that you must be Afrikaans speaking, that it can, amount to discrimination or unfair discrimination.
Yeah, look, you see in the Kleinfontein situation, like in the Oranje, it's not very different.
Yeah.
For you to be able to be a resident there, you must be Afrikaner.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's a discrimination against, you cannot, as an African, you cannot spend a night in Oranje.
Yeah.
You cannot build a house in Oranje.
Yes.
And they confuse that actually with Ngonyama Trust.
Yeah.
I say to them, Ngonyama Trust is not a racist arrangement. A white person can go and talk to the king and get permission to occupy a particular place. King will allow you to do this in Ngonyama Trust. But same does not happen in Oranje, because all of a sudden you must go to Engekerk and all of these Afrikaner things, which and also you must stop. I can't slaughter at Oranje or Kleinfontein a goat because I have to do umcimbi for my ancestors. That is not allowed there.
Yeah.
They'll probably say this is barbaric and all of that. So we have that situation. So we want that scrapped. Okay. This is one of the other bills we have in the MK part to say that Section 235 of self-determination is also not even in line with the United Nations Charter of Human Rights, because even if you go to that United Nations Charter, it talks about the territory in terms of nation, the country as a whole.
Yeah.
Not this dismembering.
Not this dismembering.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you to pause right there.
Yeah.
Because we are almost out of time.
Okay.
So I want you to have just what's your take on South Africa being accused of xenophobia now, and what are your hopes for these for the impeachment proceedings right now, based on the Phala scandal? Just those two things.
Briefly.
Yes.
Firstly, I think the issue of Pan-Africanism is totally misunderstood by a lot of people.
Yeah.
Pan-Africanism was meant to mean that all the different countries work together for a common good.
Yes.
It was never meant to be United States of Africa in South Africa.
Yeah.
And this is what they're trying to make it to be.
Yeah.
If you look, for instance, the free movement of people, this borderless story is also misunderstood.
Yeah.
If you go to the EU setting, for instance, although they've got a free movement of people there, but they've got arrangement between the different countries that are there.
Yeah.
They've got a Schengen visa that makes sure that if you go into any of the entrances from any of these member states, that you would be checked to make sure that as you go into this, you are proper. Yes. And all of it. We don't have any of those things in place. So you can't say free movement here, borderlessness here, when you don't have a SADC visa.
Yes.
And all of that. So we are saying that is just a pure misunderstanding of Pan-Africanism.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. So we hold the view as MK Party that the current immigration laws must really be implemented as they stand. And we also have a problem. We say that first and foremost, we're also even worried about this employment services bill that has got quotas for foreigners. We're saying, why should that be? You can't have a situation where South Africa with a 42% unemployment, you now have a government that says maybe 10%, 5% must be for foreigners. So you're actually saying, if I'm sitting in Nigeria, I'm sitting in Kenya, I'm sitting wherever, I now have an entitlement in South Africa. We're saying as MK Party, no to that. You can't have that, have your entitlement in your own country. People that must come to South Africa for the skills that we don't have. And we do not have a shortage of drivers in South Africa. We do not have a shortage of people to work in the supermarkets. We do not have people in whether it's Checkers or Pick and Pay. We do not have a shortage of people that can work in the hospitality industry and all of that. So we are saying the reason you're having this revolution that is taking place now is because the country has lost confidence in the state to manage its own laws. As it were, with the level of undocumented and illegal people that are in the country, a lot of CEOs should have been arrested in terms of the Immigration Act. But this so-called GNU is doing nothing to lock up CEOs that are employing people that, last point on this, for this to hit home, you need to have your home burglared by somebody without documentation. You need to have your home burglared and you have fingerprints everywhere. You might even have cameras, you have their faces and everything. And then you call the police, they have all of this. They go to their system. Those people are not registered.
Yeah.
Until people have that happening in their own homes, they will never understand the security risk of just allowing everybody to come here undocumented. It's a problem.
Yeah.
We would argue as well as MK Party that even the documented ones, we must check whether that documentation was obtained fraudulently or correctly. And then even those that have been arguably attained correctly, we must check if they comply indeed with the prescripts of the law. In other words, are you here because of the job of the skill that a South African cannot fulfill?
Yeah.
Or Home Affairs official made a plan for you.
Yeah.
So you can have an illegal document, but its legality can be challenged in the sense that it does not meet the requirements of the scarce skills shortage. The only people who should have here are people with skills that we don't have.
Yes.
But we are awash with drivers. We are awash with petrol attendants. We are awash with hospitality industry people and so on, domestic workers and all of that.
Yeah.
42%, let's absorb that and then we can have a discussion later. But up until we deal with unemployment, charity must begin at home.
Yeah.
Up until we deal with, and by the way, if you go to these countries, they've got similar laws. You cannot go to Ghana and work in government in Ghana if you are not a Ghanaian.
Yeah.
So why is it difficult to comprehend this for South Africa?
Yes, we all say it's only xenophobia when South Africa is involved.
No, this is, it's not xenophobia. It's to understand that, but we are saying, what is it that must happen? What must happen is that if South Africa is seen as a much more developed country, it must therefore assist these other countries to bring down the push factors.
Yes.
We are very sensitive to the strife that the people are dealing with in their own countries.
Yes.
We are saying, South Africa, if you have this much muscle, go to those countries. I mean, let's export the Boers to these places to go and do the farming there. On a serious note. They're good in farming. Let's take them there. Yeah. Let them assist the Nigerians how to farm. Let's assist the Kenyans.
You know, Trump has plans for Africa.
So that's really...
okay, Mzwanele, I think we could talk the whole day and we really unfortunately run out of time.
Okay.
And maybe someday I'll invite you so we can talk when the Section 89 proceedings come back into the public space.
But the impeachment, let's close on this.
You have something to say.
We hold the view in the MK Party that what Mr. Ramaphosa is doing now is actually to undermine the ruling of the Constitution or of the Constitutional Court. You must remember, the Constitutional Court is the one that ordered this process because of the sham vote that had happened.
Yes.
And the Constitutional Court said that the impeachment committee must proceed up until and unless the Section 89 report is set aside on review.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ramaphosa does not want that which the Constitutional Court has ordered. He is now, yesterday started with this interim interdict.
Yes.
So in other words, despite the Constitutional Court having given a direction to say, set aside on review, he says, no, set aside on interdict. So in other words, he is asking the Western Cape High Court to overturn the Constitutional Court order. So we'd like to see if that court is going to do that. If that Western Cape High Court is going to overturn the Constitutional Court, then we must know that we've got a banana republic here.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I think we'll be watching very closely to see what is happening. But we've come to the end of our interview. I feel like we could have spoken about a whole lot more. But thank you so much, Mr. Mzwanele. Mzwanele Manyi for coming here. I want to tease you and say Jimmy, but we know Jimmy's dead.
Young colonizer.
Simbulele Jimmy. And guys, this is what happens, the scales of justice. We talk about current affairs. We talk about justice in motion, and we want to see things changing. What's interesting for me, what Mr. Manyi said was the credibility of the NPA. We hope someday, because the implementation of our laws happens at our courts, that we get to a point where we don't have to question the credibility of our most profound institutions that implement the law. Because how are other people from other countries going to respect our borders and respect our laws if we do not respect our own laws? So starting now, we need to be advocates for credibility, for honoring the Constitution. And I know that 30th June is coming, guys. You've given the deadline. Let's make sure that we don't make clowns of ourselves by being violent. I'm glad that I'm seeing some of the marches having police accompanying, and we need to keep to that, because as South Africans, we are classy citizens and so forth, but I absolutely support South Africans using their right to protest, to speak against the disrespect of our borders, and we should use our rights to protest, to speak against the injustices and our institutions not working effectively. We have amazing laws, but we need consistency. Until then, see you on the next episode of Scales of Justice. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. We have Mr. Mzwanele Manyi. He's very busy. He sits in Parliament making decisions about the law. I think this is one person we want on our side, right? Am I right, Mr.?
We want MK on your side.
MK.
4th of November, vote MK.
You heard it from Mr. Mzwanele Manyi. Vote MK, guys.
It's our last hope. It's our last hope.
Use your vote to vote for the party you believe in. And today we have MK in studio. So vote according to the right you've been given. I can't get in trouble. Signing out, guys.